You know what time it is. For a lot of us, different seasons mean different weather, different moods and feelings, and different seasons can invoke different types of memories that we have. And of course, we often associate certain types of food with different seasons. It's fall now in the northern hemisphere, so for me that means it's time for soups and comfort foods. And one of the most classic and simple soups is tomato soup. It doesn't take a lot of time or special ingredients, so you can do it in a pinch, and I just wanted to share how I did it this time. By the way, I made a double portion here because I was making it for a large group of people, but what I say and what I'm going to list down below is meant for the regular size portion, which should give you like 5 to 8 servings. So I'm starting in my Dutch oven over medium heat and I'm adding a few tablespoons of butter. Most recipes have some combination of butter and olive oil. I prefer to add my olive oil at the end. A lot of people do it at the beginning with the butter or instead of the butter, but you can kind of play with that timing and order and see what you like better. I'm going to add in a medium yellow onion which I've diced up and stir that frequently for like 7 or 8 minutes to let the onion soften. And once it just starts browning, I'm going to add in like 5 cloves of minced garlic. Again, stir that constantly to keep it from sticking and burning. I'm also going to add in an optional small pinch of red pepper flakes. If you like it just a little spicy, you can add these. I add these just at the beginning so I can toast them up with the aromatics. And lastly, just like 2 or 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Stir all of that around until it starts to coat the bottom. And before it burns on you, we're going to add in our tomatoes. And since this is popular in fall and winter, I'm going to be using canned tomatoes. I'm going in with 2 of the 28-ounce cans of whole peel tomatoes. There's lots of brands and varieties, as you can see I have here. The San Marzano tomatoes taste a little better, but they are a little more expensive. So sometimes I opt for them and sometimes I don't. In this one I'm going to use a mixture of both. But regardless, I do usually feel that the whole peel tomatoes taste better than the crushed or the pureed versions. So I add those in, and I don't want to waste the extra sauce that's left in the cans. So I'm going to take some of the water that I'm going to add anyway and pour it into the cans first, and then pour it into the next can and so forth. Just swirling it around to catch all the juice that I can, and then I'll dump it in. I think I added about 2.5 cups of water in total here. You can play with that amount to get the consistency and flavor that you want. Also, it's common to use chicken stock instead of water. I personally just add a small spoonful of chicken bouillon, and I also meant to add in a splash of white wine here, but I forgot. But yeah, this is pretty forgiving, so make this your own. I'm using my wooden spatula to kind of break up the tomatoes, but I'm not worried about doing that too much because we're going to blend them later. Just make sure that you're scraping the bottom and lifting off any flavor that built up there. For flavorings, I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of dried marjarom and a teaspoon of dried oregano, a good bit of freshly ground black pepper. I'm going to save the salt for later to taste. And then I keep a bag of these Parmesan rinds in my fridge. They make a noticeable flavor boost in any kind of soup or stock that you're making. So if you have one, I would add it here. If not, I would start saving them. And then I bought one of these big containers of fresh basil at Trader Joe's. It's game changing because it's not that tiny portion that you get from most grocery stores, but it's still pretty cheap. But if you're only able to get those tiny portions, I would save that for garnish at the end. But since I have so much, I'm going to tear a handful of it into the soup now, and also add some later when I eat it. And lastly, I'm just going to add in a few pieces of roasted red bell pepper. I usually keep a jar of these in my fridge. It adds a nice boost of flavor to a lot of dishes. I'm then just going to put this on a high heat and bring everything to a boil, stirring occasionally. And once it's there, I can lower it to a simmer and leave it for anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour. It should reduce a bit. If you think it needs more liquid, you can always add it back in. Or if it's still too watery, you can reduce it even further. And once it's to your desired consistency, it's time to remove the Parmesan rinds and whip out your immersion blender. If you don't have one of these, it's fine to just use a regular kitchen blender, but I personally wouldn't leave this soup unblended.
Whiz it up, boy.
Basically, just blend it up until you get a mostly homogeneous puree. And then one of the most important ingredients, your heavy cream. I probably added about a cup or so here, but you can add this to your taste. Just mix all that together until it brings your soup to a bright orange color. And no, I haven't forgotten about my olive oil. This is where I'm going to add it. I add it towards the tail end of blending because blending olive oil too much will make it bitter. I probably did like 2 or 3 tablespoons here. And now it's finally time to season this to taste. You're going to need a good bit of salt because the tomatoes need a lot of seasoning to taste good, but just taste as you go. I'm also adding in some more pepper and a couple of optional spoons of sugar. And yeah, there's your tomato basil soup. Keep this covered on a low simmer until you're ready to serve it. Just scoop a couple of ladlefuls into a bowl and then top it however you'd like. I'd recommend spooning in a few more drops of heavy cream to make it look pretty, and tearing in a few more fresh basil leaves, and grate in some Parmigiano reggiano if you have it. Of course, this is best served with grilled cheese, which is how I had it at the gathering that I brought this soup to. But for taste test purposes, I'm just going to have a small bowl of this on camera. To me, fall and winter have to be the best food seasons, no question. Because even though your produce might not be at its freshest, we just proved that you can still enjoy those fresh flavors by modern technology of canning. And eating is just more fun when the weather's not blaring hot, especially in New Orleans. This is just a hearty classic that would make anybody feel better. Let's give this a go. Cheers. Yes, it just goes down so easy, just so rich and savory, and the bite from those tomatoes, there's just nothing like it. Yeah, what I like about this is it's comfort food, but it's not overly heavy, which I do love my heavy comfort foods from time to time, but sometimes I just want something light. I mean, there's not that much to say about this. It's not super original. I added a couple little twists of my own in there, but this is pretty standard and a lot of people do this. This is not fancy food by any means, but that's why I like it so much. But I do need to bring this entire pot to a church gathering. Hopefully there's enough people to eat it. I'm excited to have a full bowl later, but let me know what you think. And what is your favorite fall food or your favorite comfort food in general? That's it for me today. Thank you all for watching. Be blessed, and I'll see y'all next time. I would definitely order a glass of that at a restaurant and drink it without hesitation.